Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Pete Wright.
World traveler Nikki Kinzer.
Oh, yeah. Well, all the way to Philadelphia.
Well, it was at one time.
That one time.
You went to Philadelphia, also in the world.
Once a year, I get out of town.
That's right. That's right. We're going to be talking about your big world travel just a couple of weeks ago. You're back. You've had a chance to center, to find your mindful space. And it's time to tell us all about the chat at a conference and lessons learned. And you had a big pivot in the middle of this conference. Spoiler, it's a doozy.
It is.
I don't know. I'm just building drama. But it is, you learned a lot. And I'm very excited to hear you recap this for everybody because it seems like a big year for you personally, as well as always professionally.
Absolutely.
Before we do that, head over to TakeControlADHD.com and get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show right there on the website or subscribe to our mailing list, and you'll get an email with the latest episode each week. Connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at TakeControlADHD. And if this show has ever touched you in any way that has helped to support the way you live with your ADHD, we encourage you to visit patreon.com/the ADHD podcast and consider joining the others who have decided to support this show and support its continued development and production. That's the first thing you get is just you get to go to sleep at night and think, hey, ADHD podcast isn't going anywhere. Next Tuesday, I'm going to get another episode because I'm part of the group that's supporting it. But you know what else you get?
Unless we're on vacation.
Well, okay.
I'm sorry. I just have to
There's always a thing.
Transparent.
The other thing...
It's not every week.
The other thing you get is you get access to early release episodes. If you can come and join us in the live stream recording, depending on the level you choose to support us. And you get access to Pete and Nikki in all kinds of fun ways. And just head over to patreon.com/the ADHD podcast to get to know that. And also, I just have to say, look, this is for the live stream. And if you're not on live stream, you don't get to see this. What?
Look at that.
That's right. You can't hear me. I'm talking through a shirt. This is the Squirrel podcast shirt. And that's the front, and it's got the squirrels on it, and it's fantastic. And on the back, it says, Taking Control, the ADHD podcast. And it's so classy. This is the heather blue. I just got it. And I would be wearing it, but I wore it yesterday, and now it's stinky.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're not wearing it.
Yeah. So it's weirdly classy, this shirt. It seems like such a joke, but I put this on and I feel like I'm a proper lad.
That's great.
Yeah. So there you go. ADHD podcast stuff is over in our TeePublic store, and you should check that out as well. Link in the show notes and on the website. So we also have, oh my goodness, get a load of this, the Accountability Group Coaching 2020.
Gosh, that sounds so weird. I mean, 2020 seems so far off, but it's not.
Know.
It's a few weeks from
And yet
now.
you can see it so clearly.
Yes, it's crazy.
Do you get what I did there?
Oh, 2020. Oh, you
that was
are
the joke.
so
It was
clever.
a vision joke. It was a vision joke. It was a kind of an onion of humor. Go ahead.
It's good. It's good. All right. I appreciate it. I appreciate your humor. All right. So yes, Accountability Group Coaching 2020 with great vision. Ooh, I really should wrap something about that.
Yeah,
like
we need to be doing
2020.
some of that.
Yeah. Okay. Marketing idea just popped up. Anyway, so beginning the week of January 13th, the days and times are still to be announced. So I want to be honest about that. I haven't quite decided what's going to work best, but I will figure that out soon and I will let you know. But it will be for 10 weeks. We are going to be meeting weekly for 90 minutes. Plus there's check-ins and communication with the group in between sessions. And you get one individual coaching session with me to use whenever you like. So a lot of the outline and agenda is very similar to what I've done in the past. Biggest difference is that I will have a very specific topic and they all sort of blend in together to explore as a group from week to week. Each member is still going to have the opportunity to share their updates on whatever their focus is for that week. So that's where the accountability comes in. And at the end of the call, we will also set new intentions for the next week. So It's a great opportunity to work with like-minded people as support. You get new ideas, you get inspiration, motivation, you get feedback from me. It's a great thing. So I definitely recommend checking it out. If you have questions specifically, you can email me at nikki@takecontroladhd.com. And if you'd like to sign up, you can go to the website and there's a little special page for accountability group and you can sign up there. But I have a feeling that Pete, you will also put this in the show notes as well, right?
I will. I'm going to do that. And you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to set up a page so that people can register. Seems like that's a thing I should do.
I just think that's great idea.
Number one. Yeah, we're going to do that.
We're going to do that.
Yeah. So that's definitely, you know what? I've been reflecting on this a little bit, these accountability groups. It's been a couple of years. How long have you been doing these accountability groups for the coaches?
Several years, actually. At least
something
probably
like that,
4. Yeah.
And, so much of what I've been reading in Discord, the people who are coming in and talking about like how it's so hard to find a new routine, like this is it. Like, this is how you do it. And to, if this is what it takes for you to find a new routine, to be able to invest in yourself a little bit, to get over the hump of not having anybody to be accountable to, these weekly, habits are huge.
Absolutely.
And so it's hard. It's not an easy thing, but if it's time for you, you'll know it. And it may just be time to do the hard thing, to face the demons and get started.
Work on that vision,
Nikki,
in 2020.
Work on that vision. Oh, you can see so clearly.
I know, right?
And
so much with that we can do.
Nikki Kinzer, you're back from Philadelphia. It's time to talk about CHAD. The CHAD.
It's actually,
at a bookstaga.com acronym.
Yes, it's not really CHAD. It's not the CHAD conference anymore. It is the ADHD International. International. Now, see, I can't even remember. It's the International ADHD Conference hosted by CHAD, ADA, and ACO.
Okay.
So 3 different organizations.
ADHD IntConf, CHAD, ADA, OCO.
It's big. Yes.
That's what it is. It's a big acronym. But big acronyms mean big lessons.
Big lessons.
Check out that segue.
Yes. And this year was not any different than any other year. It was a great opportunity to meet people, see people that I haven't seen, that I see on a yearly basis, basically. People, from my profession, like coaches, experts, doctors, all of those, some of our guests. I saw many of our guests actually there.
That's right.
Conference.
ADHD professionals turned podcast guests.
Yes.
They've really reached new heights.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I met a lot of people who just listened to our show and was there as an adult with ADHD learning, or as a parent with an ADHD child, or a parent with ADHD and an ADHD child. I mean, there were all different kinds of people there for different reasons. And so it was always, it's always humbling to me, Pete, when somebody recognizes me and says, "Oh, I love your podcast." And then followed up, "Where's Pete?
Oh,
is
right.
Pete here?"
And then the sad trombone.
I know, like, not this time, but next year, hopefully you will be there, because they do want to know where you are.
It's definitely going to happen next year. It's been too many years that I've not done it, and it's actually in Dallas next year, right?
Yes.
Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
So it's even easier to get to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very excited.
So today I'm going to share some of my takeaways from the conference, and there were many different topics that were covered. And what I decided to do for this show is I'm going to be covering 3 different sessions that I found to be interesting. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the comments from the speakers that really resonated with me. I figured it better to be kind of narrow it down to 3 than to tell you every session I went to, because that would be a really long and boring podcast, to be honest. So
let's just settle on long. I have higher hopes for
thank
the
you.
engagement. It's long.
It's long, right? So
but let's take that, because you went with I guess I want to start with your overall impression of your experience at the conference. You came back and it felt like you were surprised at how you just sort of reacted to the experience this year.
Well, I was surprised, but that is also because I have some personal things going on in my life that made this very surprising. So what happened is I went to this conference with the mindset of an ADHD coach, right? I wanted to learn. Yes, absolutely. I go to the conference for a couple of different reasons. One is to network and meet with people and hopefully talk to some people who will become guests and will become guests on the show again. So there's definitely, some of that. It is to re-engage with people that I talk to periodically, the other coaches, and be able to have that face-to-face contact. But it's also to get my CE credits because I am a certified ADHD coach. And in order to keep that certification, I have to have, so many credits every 3 years. Well, when I first went to the conference, that's definitely the mindset that I went in. And on Thursday, all the sessions were about coaching. So that is that was what I went in thinking about and
Sure.
all of that. But after Thursday, my mind shifted and it really changed to being a parent with an ADHD daughter who has not been diagnosed yet. Mm-hmm. And so what's happening in my life is we are in a process right now where we're trying to get her properly evaluated. It has not been an easy process for a lot of different reasons. And I will certainly talk about that at a later time about my daughter's journey. But I just want to give some people, some reference of why I walked away as being a parent. Okay. So there we go. So
I'm with you.
Yes. So, okay. The first session that I that I want to talk about isn't really anything to do with me being a parent. It really was about motivation. And, it was about ADHD and how ADHD affects your motivation and how it's really hard for ADHD to get excited or an ADHDer to get excited about long-term goals. You relate to that?
A little, yeah, I do. And I'll tell you where my head was just now, because we've been talking so much about, part of the problem is this executive function thing. When my ADHD is up, all of the tools that I have to regain focus are inward, right? They're like inward inside of me and not external. And so it's hard to get excited about things outside when I feel like I've lost control inside.
Right.
And so that's where my head was just now. I don't know if that relates to that experience. But.
Well, absolutely. Well, and when we think about motivation, I mean, motivation is the drive to do something, right? It's the drive to take that step forward. And what happens with the executive functions and with ADHD is that ADHDers are less sensitive to consequences. Because the lesson of not doing something or doing something that they were supposed to be doing isn't necessarily learned or remembered. Right. So it's that I did it and I should, people will say, well, you should learn your lesson. But with ADHD, that's not necessarily true. It's like you don't remember what happened. And so the motivation can be affected that way, right?
That's fascinating because I can see that in my own kids and I can see that in myself. And that is one of those things, even though my kids, who at this point, they do have words to describe it, but before they did, it would happen and they wouldn't learn the lesson. And then I have the words and have been working actively on this for almost 20 years, and I still don't learn the lessons. And that is a shocking side effect of ADHD that it constantly amazes me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and one of the strategies that this speaker was talking about was to really give time or give yourself time to link your values to your goals. And that really resonated with me because I thought, I wonder how often, and I'm just being honest, I wonder how often I really do talk to my clients about their values. Not often enough to be, to be completely honest. And so that's why I go to these conferences is to, to think about these things. So it goes more into asking yourself these questions when you want change or you want to be able to do something, right? You're motivated to do something. What makes it important to you right now? That's a great question. But we also need to connect that to what makes it an important, and then how does it correlate to your values? Why is it going to work with your value system? And students actually tend to do better in school if they can connect their values to their goals. So if their goal is to get an A out of this class, well, let's talk about why is that important? What value do you see in getting that A? And everybody's, answer is going to be different, but they could say, well, integrity, hard work, drive, anything that is of value to them, that's what that A is representing. But somebody else could say, well, my goal is to just get a B. And I say just, but that doesn't mean that that's any less than an A.
Right.
Because they know it's going to be hard work. So I'm going to persevere. That is a value of mine. And so when they can see that, they can find that motivation.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really, really
well, yeah,
important.
and that B with ADHD is going to be, an order of magnitude more challenging than an easy A for someone who's not living with ADHD.
Well, absolutely. And yeah, that goes into a whole nother thought process, but absolutely. So the next point that I thought was really important was to think about your belief system. And again, I thought that this was really a good reminder. It's those limiting beliefs that you and I talk about so often. So to be motivated, you have to have the desire and belief that you have the ability to change. So if you don't believe that you can change something, or you don't believe that something could be better or different, then we're really going to keep hitting, our heads against that wall. So those limiting beliefs really have a lot to do with our motivation. And so we have to look at these. We have to work through them. We have to, do whatever we can to stop believing those things and really start opening up the door of opportunity.
I feel like the next lesson is something I've been thinking a lot about, which is, trying to find meaning once you get over the hump of those limiting beliefs in the things that you are doing, the actions that you're taking.
Well, because think about when you're first motivated or inspired to do something. You're really excited, right? So you're going to get up early. You're going to do everything you said you were going to do. And that first day is going to feel great. And then the second day is not going to feel so great. And the third day is really not going to feel great. So what I got out of this point was really think about what you want to work on and do just one or two things that are meaningful than trying to work on everything at one time. Because we know, the science backs it up. You don't have to be a researcher to figure this out. If you try to change everything all at once, it's not going to happen. Yeah, and so It's those small steps. It's those small habits. It's those being able to see that, okay, today wasn't as great as yesterday, but my limiting belief isn't going to stop me from trying again tomorrow.
The roadblock piece, the thing that actually triggers limiting beliefs, is when you have a high degree of motivation to do something new that you're excited about and run into something for which your skills and abilities do not currently allow you to complete it. Right? That's not to say that I can't train myself. I can't get the right education. I can't learn the right things to actually, for crying out loud, I can't watch the right YouTube video to learn how to do this thing. But what I run into is my motivation falls so low after that first roadblock that a limiting belief it's born. It erupts from the ground, not as a little sprig, but as a mighty oak.
Right.
And then I decide, you know what? It's time for a little bit of Seinfeld. Classic Seinfeld.
Well, that whole show is hilarious. But no, it's something that when you were saying that is so true when it comes to the expectations of what we think we can get done in a day. When we look at our to-do list, our daily to-do list, and we think, oh, we can do these 10 things. And it's not even that you can't actually do the task. You can do the task. You just don't actually have the time. So that whole ADHD time thing has really gotten away from you. And, you can't add more hours in the day. So it has absolutely nothing to do with what you did or didn't do.
Right.
The time just isn't there to do it. And so one of the things that I want people to think about, and this was really interesting because I wrote this, like, I think in caps, when you're anticipating the roadblocks of what might happen with your motivation, think of it this way. If this happens, ... then I do ...
Mm-hmm.
So if I know that I'm, if I don't get everything done on my to-do list, then I will, or, you can rephrase that however you want. But I think that that's really important, is to actually think it through and think about what could potentially happen. And again, what is the opportunity there?
I just a callback to another life. I was in public relations for a long time, and one of the things I had to do in public relations for a university was help coordinate signal response to trauma training. So when when there's an active shooter drill, or when there's a disease outbreak, and some sort of crisis happens at the university, what are the steps that we go through to actually respond to this crisis? And the thing I learned, I don't actually know if this is, I didn't actually read this anywhere, but I was told that this is it's very much a military thing, like a Marine crisis management, is that the Marines aren't prepared just because they're looking at the next crisis over the horizon. They're prepared when they're looking at the next crisis over every horizon, right? Mm. That it's not just the one thing that's going to trip you up. It's a number of things, maybe things happening at the same time that are completely unrelated, that you're going to have to find a way to wrap your head around. I really love the idea of documenting the multiple horizon theory of crisis in ADHD, because, for you to be able to write a bullet, just a sentence on a paper that says, if this happens, then I do this. If this next thing happens, then I do this thing. And maybe the way you respond is the same for a number of bullets, but at least you've gone through the activity of trying to flush out worst case scenarios. And that gives you a lot more sort of control or power, or, I think agency in how you respond when things go wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Enough out of me.
Just two more things I wanted to add about this particular session is the importance of revisiting your goals, revisit your values, recognize your progress. So it is a journey. And so we want to continue to look at those things. And for the people that are on the live stream, you'll see that behind me is my vision board. I add to it periodically whenever something comes to me that I want to add to it. I do. So it has actually grown. If you look at the beginning, what it looked like at the beginning of the year and what it looks like today. But that's a way for me to always be reminded of what's important and what I'm doing and my intention. And so it is important that we keep that in front of you, especially for ADHDers, because as we said at the beginning, it's too easy to not only forget the lessons and the consequences and the benefits, but it's easy to forget what our goals are. So we need to have those in front of us. Something else I want to say is they also, and again, I wrote this down in caps too, trial and error is a part of life with ADHD.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was beautiful. I just thought that was a beautiful thing to say. Trial and error is a part of life with ADHD. A lot of what I got out of this conference was accepting ourselves for who we are. We don't need to be fixed. We're not broken. Somebody had mentioned that it's not time management that needs to be changed. It's just your relationship with time has to be reevaluated. I mean, there's just these things that I really got out of the conference as a whole. And it was definitely this acceptance that this is just part of it. And you're going to find good things, and you're going to find bad things, and you keep going.
And is that candlelight dinner with Jason Mraz on your vision board? Is that what I see back there?
Oh my gosh.
Don't worry about it. Let's talk about Ross Green.
So, yes, Dr. Ross Green. Oh man, I was so excited when I found out he was going to be a keynote speaker. So, he is the author of The Explosive Child. And I got to tell you, this book was important to me and my husband for a long time. So, people that have listened to this show for as many years as we've been on it, you know that I've had some interesting experiences with raising my son and now raising my daughter. So, but this book was recommended to us by our therapist and said, you got to read this book. And so when I found out that Dr. Green was going to be there, I was really excited. And his whole message throughout the hour and a half, 2 hours or whatever that he spoke, power and control causes conflict. Collaboration and problem solving brings people together. And he said that over and over again. And he would say, I can't give you power, but I can give you influence. And everybody that was there, everybody that was listening to that keynote and listening to the show, they know exactly what I'm talking about because he kept saying that I can't give you power, but I can give you influence. Top 5 skills that we all need to be on the better side of human nature. So this is what I want to talk about because this is what he's saying. As parents, we want to influence our children. Number 1, empathy. 2, how we affect others. 3, how we resolve conflict. 4, how we look at other people's perspectives. And 5, honesty. So these are the 5 skills you need to have to be on the better side of human nature. So he's asking the audience, as a parent, are we teaching these skills to our children? Are we modeling them for ourselves? So again, throughout that speech, I can't give you control, but I can give you influence. He says our kids benefit from our experience, wisdom, and values. We influence through the expectations that we set. But if you try to do this with power and control, you have no influence. Boy, I have 2 teenagers. And this is so true. Yeah. You can get in a power struggle, so quick with these teens. So it was a real big aha moment. He said, don't focus on the behavior. You want to stop trying to modify behavior because at that point it's too late. So if your child broke a curfew or your kid got suspended or got sent to the principal's office, it's too late if we're trying to modify the behavior at that point. So what he's saying is we have to start looking at problems before they happen. We have to be proactive and we have to solve them together. And that's how we invite them into the conversation with us. So that's how we influence them. That was one of the biggest things I remember when I had younger children is, try to talk to your kids before they get on the hamster wheel, because once they're on that hamster wheel, it's done. You just have to play out. Yeah.
Right.
You have to play it out until they're done.
That's right. Write it out.
Write it out. Yes. So one of the things he said, and this is one of the things I loved about the speech, is that, yes, he's talking about this, but he also kind of gave us tools, of what to do. So he says, make a list of problems, which I think is kind of funny, but it's true. We all have problems, right? So make a list of these problems, figure out what your expectations are as a parent, why those expectations are important to you, and can the child meet the expectations? Because some children are going to lack the skills to meet your expectations. And so that may mean that parents need to reduce what they're expecting their children to do. And that was a big, huge aha moment too, because timeouts never worked with my son. And it was so frustrating because people will be like, well, put him in a timeout. And I'm like, you don't understand. It doesn't work. He will follow me around. Mom, 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 mom. I can't get him to be by himself. And so when you start to realize that, okay, at least for me, I can't discipline him and do the same things with him as maybe other people can do with their children. So we really had to think about, what are the problems? What are our expectations? And something that Dr. Green said is it may mean that the child needs medication because that is helping that child with those executive function skills to match the expectations given. But it also, again, may mean that as parents, we have to be flexible. We have to meet our children where they are at that time.
That's so interesting because just the act of making that list, it's like a zero-based budgeting approach to emotional expectations and skills, right? Like I have this list of things that I want my child to be able to accomplish, but I have to start by saying, here are all of those things. And then below this line of energy, motivation, satisfaction, general well-being are the skills that they don't know how to do that somehow are still on that list. And what am I doing to help them manage to the point that they can actually start moving my line of expectations down so that they're capable of doing more stuff and are stretching their capability every day, even in just a little way. How am I teaching? And I don't approach it that way either as a parent. Like I definitely approach accommodations, as a way around or rethinking those expectations, when in fact, it may be if I do a better job of making this list, there are things I can do that and teach and present in a way that will increase what they are able to expect of themselves.
Right.
That's fascinating.
It is fascinating. And I'll be the first to admit, and after I went to this talk, I called my husband immediately and I was like, we got to talk about this because we really have to think about how we're approaching things with our teenager, because again, that power and control isn't going to work. And you don't want to have that when you have a 17-year-old who's going to be going out in the world soon anyway. Right. So there's a balance there that you have to look at. But the expectation is they still are in our home and there are still things that have to, be done. Mm-hmm. One of the other last points I want to make here is that he says, solving problems together where both parties are happy. I think that this is important for teenagers, like the teenage relationship with parents, because, you have to have some trust that if a child and yourself can say, okay, I wonder if there's a way that I can get what I need, but you can also make sure that you get what you need. And we can meet in the middle. So again, it's like, it's that flexibility. It's that, having this conversation before the behavior already happens. I know this is all hard because I'm right in the trenches of it. But man, I thought it was really good advice. And his website for more information about his work is livesinthebalance.org. We'll put those in the show notes too, but check out the website, check out the book, because I definitely think he has a great message.
The last topic on your list, ADHD girls and women. Yes.
So this was again, as I said at the top of the show, very personal to me. And so I went to this, it was a panel, basically. It was 3 professional women and their 3 daughters. And it had kind of their experiences that they went through growing up with ADHD as being an ADHD girl and being an ADHD woman. There is no doubt that there is a gender bias when it comes to girls and boys and ADHD. And I am right in the middle of that too. So if your girl has pretty good grades, it's a joy to be in class because she's very charismatic and kind-hearted, they don't see a problem.
Right.
So girls are getting missed, and it's because they don't have behavioral problems. It's because they fly under the radar. They are people pleasers, and they're really good at faking that they are paying attention. And they figure out how to cope.
Yeah.
And they are gifted at better masking their issues. That they just can do it. They can because they're not necessarily fidgety. They're not exactly, walking up and down the hallways, although I think my daughter's probably dancing up and down the hallways.
Up and down the hallways.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's something that's going on there. And so on the outside, everything looks great, but inside their life is in shambles. And that's what we have to listen for. That's what we have to look for.
Yeah.
With girls, there's a lot, and women, there's a lot more guilt and shame because they always feel like a fraud. They feel like they're going to get caught. They had an expression called, it all works until it doesn't. So they're really good at faking it until it stops working. And that could be for a number of different reasons.
I just had a funny thought. Can I?
Yeah, please.
This. Have you ever? So you know what RBF is? Resting B face, right? We don't swear on the podcast.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Right? I just had this thought, because I do this too, and it's not because I'm fake paying attention. Because what's in my head is inattentive.
Right,
It's like fireworks. But I have resting attention face. I can look. That's resting attention face.
Really
There's
interesting.
Nothing behind it, but I have RAF. I have RAF. We need to start a foundation, the Resting Attention Face Foundation.
Absolutely.
There's got to be some good we can do in the world for those of us who are super ADHD inattentive and all we have is resting attention face. Oh, my goodness.
That's very true. Very true.
This is delightful.
Yes.
I feel like we've solved something big today.
We did.
Okay, please continue.
Well, so one of the things, and this is true for women as well as young girls, but often getting diagnosed with anxiety or depression first. And one of the things that one of the professional moms, she's a therapist, and she was saying when she has a client that comes in and they have anxiety or depression, she now almost always always screens them for ADHD as well, because she's learned over time that could be the underlying cause of it. So that's something to be aware of, because these conditions may cause the untreated, or may be because of the untreated ADHD. This I thought was kind of funny. Girls are hyperactive with their talking. So it's not necessarily with their bodies and fidgeting, but with their talking. And I can definitely relate to that one.
What about with their phones? Are their thumbs constantly going because they're communicating, or is it just mouths always going?
Well, in my experience, it's always the little mouth going.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
right.
But I think that, all kids with their phones is an issue. So I don't see it any more different than any of her friends. They're always on the phone doing stuff. But yeah, lots of talking going on, lots of FaceTiming.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
This is discouraging. 64% of young girls will have eating disorders. This is less for women that are in their 20s. Not really sure why.
So it goes down?
Yeah, it goes down.
Okay.
For women in their 20s. But these are the things to look for. So if you have a girl in your home that, you're concerned about, these are the things that you want to be looking for. In school, they're the daydreamers. They're underachieving. So the grades don't reflect their hard work. Homework is taking longer than 2 hours, or they forget their homework. They forget it at school. They forget it at home. It just gets forgotten. Perfectionism can be something to look for. Lack of confidence and self-esteem because they feel different from their peers, but they don't know why. Having a hard time with emotional regulation. This is true, I think, for any young girl, but especially true for somebody that has untreated ADHD. Again, more things to look for. If you've been diagnosed with anxiety or depression, have them be screening you for ADHD. If you notice your child is dropping in grades, especially in middle school, take notice. And also, again, take notice if your homework is taking longer than 1 to 2 hours to complete. Last thing she said is trust your gut. And I certainly believe in that 100%. Yeah. So there you go.
You're a changed mom. Look at you. You've learned so much.
I'm kind of advocating, it's the process. Just to give people an update, it's just really frustrating because the doctor, her primary doctor, basically said it was anxiety, and trying to
And
get
there's probably some of that.
there is.
Who are we kidding?
For sure. But trying to get her into an assessment has been really difficult. Like I got an email back just last week that, they couldn't see her for 6 months.
Oh,
there was a 6-month waiting list. And then I've got emails out.
That's telling in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I've got like probably 2 or 3 other emails to other providers to try to get her assessed. And so it's a frustrating process, but I'm not letting go of it. I'm going to keep calling and keep asking, when I can get her in. And she's fortunate. And I say this humbling. I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I'm treating it just like she does have ADHD. So I've been really helping her with her homework, and we redid her whole binder system, and I've been giving her lots of tools and strategies to help her, and giving her a lot of support and a lot of love. And I keep telling her,
that's never hurt anybody.
No.
Yeah.
So we'll figure it out, and I will definitely share the journey with everybody because it's important that we talk about this. It's what we do.
Right. Well, I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate all of these lessons learned. I've made some notes of things that I need to go read, and they're going to be in the show notes. So thank you, everybody, as always, for downloading and listening to this show. We deeply appreciate your time and your attention. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll see you next week right here on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.